back to another day of working on the van. Today we're going to be doing some preliminary work on the pre-wiring. So I have a couple tools here. So I have a drill, I have these 3-way connectors that I found on Amazon. I have some marine grain wire. One is well, both of these are 12 gauge wire. One is the 3 strands and the other one is the 2 strands. I also have this label maker, this wire fishing tool I found at Home Depot. I have some wire strippers. I have some electrical tape just in case I need it, and I have these connectors that I bought off of Amazon as well. And then I bought this split tubing from Home Depot just in case for certain areas as I'm wiring, just making sure that if it's going to be rubbing against the metal, to just wrap it with this so that way it doesn't damage the wires whenever we're driving. So the nice thing about these heat shrink spade connectors that I bought on Amazon is that you don't need any soldering. All you have to do is just buy this crimping tool. So what you do is you just slip the wire into this little piece, you crimp it down really tight, and you have a solid connection between the wire and the spade connector. And the spade connector comes with they have female bits and they have male bits. So you crimp the female bit to the other wire that you want to connect to. You crimp the male bit to the second wire, and then all you have to do is just push them together and they're connected. And if you ever need to work on something, you can just easily pop them off and they're disconnected. So I'm going through, I put spade connectors on the max air fan wires. These are the male ends, and then on the other end where I have the wire that I ran through the wall, or that I ran through the channels of the van, I'm going to put a female connector onto this one, so that way I can just connect the max air fan to that 12 gauge wire. And so that's what I'm planning to do for each appliance. Each appliance is going to have its own dedicated wire, and that wire will go to the fuse box, and each item will have its own fuse. So that's what I'm planning to do. So I'm going to put on the other spade connector, and I'll show you an example of how this works. Female connector, and we will slide it onto the wire here. So I've done the black wire. It's a nice solid connection after you crimp it down. So I'm going to do the same thing for the red wire. So you just slip it into the little hole. Make sure it's all the way in. Take your crimping tool, match it up with the yellow. Let's see if I can show it here. Match it up with the yellow. Push down really hard. And then once I get like a heat source, I can just heat this up, and this will shrink down, because this is all heat shrink. So this will shrink down and create an even more solid connection onto these wires. I found this cheap label maker at Home Depot. So for each wire I run, I'm going to label them just so I know what exactly it is when I come back to it. And I have back max air fan, and I can just cut it. And so now I have a label for my wire. This might be overkill. You can probably just use painter's tape, but I want this to last for a while, so I'm just gonna do it this way. Plus, the label maker's not that expensive. So I use this wire fishing tool to, I'm gonna route it. Well, I already did. I routed it behind this channel right here, and it came out right here. So what I can do is I can just tape the wire onto this end and then pull it through. And it seems to be a lot easier to run the wire in the channels of the van this way, rather than having to fiddle with it trying to push it through, because sometimes it gets stuck. few wires for some of the appliances that we're expecting to have. Some of them are a mix of the 3-strand and some are just 2-strand. So for 3-strand, the 3-strand ones will be used for the 110 appliances, and then the 2-strand will be used for the 12-volt appliances. Each of the wires are labeled. So for instance, we have the June oven, we have the fridge, we have, what's this? Induction stove. We have the back max air fan, and then we have the front max air fan. It's pretty straightforward. Just have to make sure that you plan out all of the appliances you're gonna have and distinguish between the two, whether it's gonna be using the 110 wires, which is the 3-strand ones, or the 12-volt, which is just the 2-strand ones. But yeah, making progress. I think I'll just run a few more for the puck lights, and then I'll call it a day. Probably day 3 or 2 of working on the pre-wiring. So I just ordered another roll of this 3-gauge wire. This is the wire I'm going to be using for my 110 outlets or AC outlets, and then the AC appliances as well. So I bought 25 feet, just like I did last time. And this is pretty expensive. This is like $50 for 25 feet. So hopefully this is enough to finish off the pre-wiring for that. I also ordered 12 of these 12-volt puck lights. So I'm gonna be putting some of those connectors onto the end of this. Okay, now that I've put all of these connector pieces on each of my puck lights, all that's left to do is use the heat gun to heat up this section right here, because these connectors are covered with heat shrink. So once I heat it up, it creates a nice close, strong connection. So this is before with this gap, and now after. I thought I'd use this opportunity to go over some of the design choices that we're thinking about doing with the van. So we have pretty much designed the van using this software called Van Space 3D. It kind of gives you like 90% of the way, which is like giving you a good design of like where you want to put things and stuff like that. But I wouldn't necessarily use it for like dimension by dimension accuracy or something like that. It does pretty good for you know, for what you pay for. So I'm going to show you what we have so far. This is our design. This is what we're going for in terms of lighting. So we have 4 main puck lights that are going to go along the middle of the van. So I have those wired up. The next would be to wire up the kitchen cabinet lights, which is just those 3 under-mounted ones, which will be on the left side. Then you have the 2, which is just above the bed on the left side, and then you'll have 3 on the right side. I'm missing one right now, but you'll have 3 on that upper cabinet on the right side of the van. So this is kind of like what we're going for. Let me zoom out, and you can see the whole kind of like the design of the van. So this software is actually pretty cool, because you can get at least maybe 90-95% done with like designing your van and what you want to have included in it. And then the main part is, after you have this design, you know where everything goes, then you can start making more detailed measurements of things. And this program does do a good job of giving you like rough dimensions of where things are, how big they are in relation to the size of the van, which is pretty good. So we have the kitchen area right there. We'll try to have 2 benches facing each other, and then this bed design will be a collapsible bed that we can pull out and then collapse down to be kind of like a couch sitting area. So that way we have like multifunctional spaces in the van. I mean, since you do have a limited amount of space in the van, you want to try to utilize it as much as possible. I've seen people do like the L-shaped benches where they, pick it up, convert it to a bed, and convert it to a couch. I think this pull-out design will allow us to have a bed that's pretty simple to get into bed mode, and then pretty simple to have convert into a couch. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, because you also have this massive garage space as well, which you can use to like store bikes or scooters or any other thing that you might have. So this is what we're going for. I'll go over this design in detail in another video, and yeah, that's gonna be it for today. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. Follow along with our journey. But yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for following along. And as always, thanks for doing life with us. Peace.